All right, good morning. It is 11:30 here on what is now becoming more and more active across the region. We're going to take a look at radar here with storms firing up across a big part of the area, especially on the North Shore. That's where we're still seeing a lot of these storms develop. We do have a couple tornado warnings just outside of our viewing area, but it is a sign that the atmosphere, it's got a lot of wind shear, things are rotating, and we are keeping an eye on all of it. Now, the important thing is that this tornado warning, as I mentioned, is just to the east or west of us, rather. It's going to be south of Lafayette. There continues to be that tornado warning. None of the cells in our area are currently warned, but they all are rotating. When you look at each individual cell here and you look at the velocity of these cells, they are spinning. Now, the rotation is somewhat broad in all of them, but it's a sign that the atmosphere has a lot of the ingredients here for tornadoes to potentially develop. So that's what we're going to be watching. And if you're watching us on the North Shore, I mean, there are storms scattered all over the place. None of them are currently severe, but we are watching each and every one of them very, very closely here. Now, if you are following along the radar in Slidell, if you're following on your phone or any of your apps and you notice that the radar is either delayed at times or it just disappears, it's because the radar has been going through some upgrades and it may be intermittent through the day. So if you're looking at the radar here, just be aware that it is going to be going in and out, and we may have to jump to our surrounding radars, which are in Mobile and in Lake Charles. And we're not going to have as good as radar coverage, but we'll at least have some radars across the region. Taking a look at these cells, they're not very big, but they are there and they've got some spin to them. Currently up in Tangipahoa Parish, these are mini supercells basically, and they've got that classic supercell look where things are wrapping up and you've got rotation, broad rotation right in here. So some of these storms are already rotating, but none are currently warned. So we're keeping an eye on those. Those are going to be moving to the northeast across the area. There's also a cell over the lake. That one was rotating earlier. There's another cell out by Laplace. Guess what? It's rotating some. So we are keeping a close eye on all of these. And if we look at the radar scans here from out in Laplace or out in St. Charles Parish, notice nothing jumps off as an imminent threat. But it's just a reminder that the atmosphere is ready to do its thing today. Now, we have some updates from the 10 a.m. update here. The Storm Prediction Center out of Norman, Oklahoma, they're the experts in severe weather. They issue these outlooks that we tell you about. And they have upgraded a large portion of the area to slightly higher risk for tornadoes. And a big portion of the North Shore and South Mississippi are included in this. It also includes portions of the South Shore. Now, I don't want you to get necessarily hung up on these dividing lines because the entire atmosphere is primed to rotate. This is just the zone and the best guess on where we think the tornado potential will be a bit more widespread. We'll have more storms that could still be rotating. So we have upgraded our tornado threat slightly some, and I'll be honest, it's not very frequently that we have a risk that's this high across our area. So it is something to watch. Now, the timing of all this is not as clear cut as saying we're going to have a line of storms move through at 3 to 4 o'clock and it'll be gone. We will be watching individual cells all afternoon long, from now probably until 6 or 7 o'clock this evening. We already have a few of those cells out there now. That's what the radar is going to look like for the next couple of hours. We're just going to be watching each cell, basically babysitting each cell to make sure it doesn't get too strong. Now, as we get into the 3, 4 o'clock hour, they do become more widespread, so the risk will be higher overall with more storms around, and that'll be through the afternoon and up until around 6 or 7 o'clock, and then it still looks like the timing, by 8 o'clock, it should be moving on out. So overall, the risk itself is going to linger until at least probably 8, and then after 8 o'clock, it is gone. For some, it'll be done well before 8, but that's a general timeline of when things should be wrapping up across the area. So once again, we are tracking that threat for severe weather. We have multiple storms that are moving across the area this afternoon, or rather it's 11:30 this morning, and this will continue through the afternoon. These cells are spinning. They just haven't organized enough to drop anything to the ground tornadic-wise, but some of these cells are certainly, we are watching very, very closely. When you look at the velocity on these things, the Doppler radar is detecting what the winds are doing in these storms, and whenever you see a green and red, we call that a couplet, and if they're oriented just right, that tells us that the storms are rotating. You could see each one of these cells: Northern Livingston, St. Helena Parish. There's a cell approaching Greenbirds that has some broad rotation. There's a cell that's just south of Kentwood that has broad rotation. Literally every single one of them at least have some rotation. So once again, that just tells you how ready the atmosphere is and how volatile the atmosphere is this afternoon. The tornado threat will actually be increasing through the afternoon as well. While there is plenty of wind shear right now, it's actually going to be increasing through the day. That's why our concern is a bit higher, especially as we get into the afternoon hour. So if you do have plans this afternoon, really those afternoon plans, maybe second guess them. There's just that potential. Maybe you want to be somewhere writing these things out just in case a tornado does pop up. We talk about commuting in these things. Of course, you don't want to be out on the road in a tornado warning. So if you do absolutely have to be traveling this afternoon, you really want to stay plugged in, stay connected, stay following our app. Of course, you can watch our streaming here. We will be on TV with any tornado warnings, things like that. So we are going to be closely following all of these cells very, very closely, especially into the afternoon as the atmosphere just continues to become more favorable for these rotating storms to potentially drop tornadoes. As we get into the 4 or 5 o'clock hour, we could still have that threat for rotating storms here in the metro. By 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 6 to 7, I think that's when we're going to start to see things really improve from west to east. So from river parishes first, eventually getting to the metro, and then later this evening it'll be in South Mississippi. So we still have really maybe 6 or 7 more hours of following this very, very closely. Just checking in with the National Weather Service here. If you are watching us over on the North Shore, especially in Tangipahoa or St. Helena or Livingston Parish, and I know quite a few of you watch us over there in Livingston and St. Helena, we are watching some of these cells. These are some of our more impressive cells. We're going to issue a tornado warning here, okay, for portions of Tangipahoa Parish. And I'm going to actually have to go on TV for this. So I tell you what, we're going to have to, I'm going to have to cut in on air for this one. And we're going to continue to stream here. Digital, you're going to have to get me pulled up and go through A Control here, and I'm going to have to get in touch with A Control. But for now, I'm going to have to wrap this up. I got to get ready to go on Channel 4 here with a new tornado warning. I'll be on Channel 4 and streaming here in just moments.